There are moments that split your life into a before and an after, and you never see them coming. For me, it happened on an ordinary Saturday morning in the dust-covered attic of my childhood home. I thought I was just helping my mom sort through old holiday decorations. Instead, I uncovered a secret so big, it rewrote everything I believed about my family, my father, and myself. My name is Natalie Green, and this is the story of how I found out my dad had a second family and how I decided to crash their perfect little Christmas party. Let me start from the beginning. It was 2 weeks after Thanksgiving. My mom had recently decided to sell the house I grew up in. With her real estate agent pushing for a winter listing, she asked me to come over and help clear the attic. Boxes of tinsel, childhood art projects, and forgotten family photos that hadn't seen the light of day in years. I was sitting cross-legged on a creaky wooden floorboard, sorting ornaments into piles when I opened an unmarked cardboard box tucked beneath an old suitcase. Inside, buried beneath a tangle of broken lights and tissue paper, was a plain white envelope, yellowed at the edges, no name, no date. I opened it absent-mindedly, expecting to find greeting cards or old receipts. But what I pulled out was far worse. It was a photo, my dad, standing barefoot in the sand, his arm wrapped tightly around a woman I had never seen before. A toddler sat on his shoulders, smiling. They looked happy, like a family. I blinked, convinced I was imagining things. But no, there were more photos. Christmas mornings, pool parties, a Halloween group shot with the same woman dressed as a witch, the same 2 children in costumes, and my dad in a ridiculous Dracula cape, grinning from ear to ear. And in every single picture, he looked like he belonged. I felt my stomach twist. My first thought wasn't anger or betrayal, it was confusion. Was this before me? Some distant relative? A long-lost cousin? But then I spotted the back of a school photo. To Daddy, love Noah and Lily. Scribbled in crayon, dated just 6 years ago. I was 21 then. Definitely alive. Definitely calling that same man Dad. I stumbled downstairs with the envelope clutched in my hand. My mom was in the kitchen, wiping down cabinets. She looked up, smiled, then her face dropped the moment she saw what I was holding. I found this upstairs, I said, voice trembling. Who are these people? Her eyes filled with something I hadn't seen in years, raw, unspeakable pain. Natalie, she whispered. Tell me the truth, I demanded. Right now. She sat down at the kitchen table, shoulders sagging under the weight of the moment. Then, quietly, she said the words I'd never forget. I found out when you were 14. He promised he'd end it. Said it was a mistake, that he'd fix everything. But he never did. I stared at her. You knew. I wanted to protect you, she said. I thought if I could just keep things normal until you left for college, maybe he'd come to his senses. But he didn't. And just like that, the image of my father, Greg Green, Sunday morning pancake maker, fixer of flat tires, guy who danced like a dork in the living room, collapsed. He hadn't just left my mom. He'd left us. And then he built a new life. Better, brighter, public, with another woman and 2 shiny, happy kids. I didn't cry that night. I couldn't. I sat in my apartment until 3 a.m. scrolling through Facebook, obsessively searching names, cross-referencing clues from the photos. That's how I found her, Vanessa Taylor. Her profile was private, but the bio said, wife, mother of 2, lucky in love. The banner image was their family at a pumpkin patch. Greg, now Greg Taylor, was front and center, holding a little girl on his hip. There were dozens of tagged photos. Birthdays. Anniversaries. Backyard cookouts. They looked like a picture-perfect family from a Hallmark movie. And I was the footnote, the afterthought, the secret. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, hearing his voice in my head. You're my girl, Nat. You're my whole world.
Lies.
All of them. But I wasn't going to be his secret anymore. I wasn't going to let him keep pretending I didn't exist. Not while he toasted eggnog with his second family, pretending he hadn't left scorched earth behind. So when I saw Vanessa's Facebook post a week later, Taylor Family Holiday Bash, December 23rd, RSVP in comments. Something inside me snapped. I didn't hesitate. I clicked message. Hi. I'm Nadine Green. A friend of Greg's from work. He invited me years ago, but I never made it. Would love to finally stop by this year. She replied within an hour. Of course. Greg will be so surprised. We love old friends. I bet he would be. Because this Christmas, I wasn't coming to celebrate. I was coming to be seen. And when I walked through that front door, my father's perfect little lie was going to fall apart, piece by piece. There's a strange calm that comes when you know you're about to burn everything down. In the days after I RSVP'd to the Taylor family holiday bash, I wasn't anxious. I wasn't scared. I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, clarity. The kind that comes when the curtain finally drops and you stop pretending the act ever mattered. I didn't tell my mom what I was planning. She'd already shouldered enough of my father's betrayal. I didn't need her trying to talk me out of it. This wasn't about revenge, not exactly. It was about the truth. My name is Natalie Green, and I was done living in someone else's shadow. I spent the next few days preparing, not like a woman going to war, but like someone finally walking into the light. I picked out a forest green velvet dress, not too formal, not too casual. I curled my hair, just the way he used to compliment. I even bought a bottle of red wine, something fancy, but not too showy. If I was going to crash my father's perfect little life, I was going to do it with elegance. I knew exactly where I was going. Vanessa's RSVP post listed the address, a quiet, upper-middle-class neighborhood in Mill Valley, about 45 minutes from my apartment. The kind of place with SUV-lined driveways, manicured hedges, and white lights strung perfectly around every window frame. I parked 2 blocks away. I didn't want to arrive with a grand entrance. I wanted to walk in like someone who belonged, someone who had every right to be there. Because as much as he tried to erase me from that world, I did belong to him. I walked up the driveway just as dusk settled in, the air sharp with pine and distant firewood. The house glowed like something out of a holiday magazine. Twinkling lights lined the porch. A massive wreath hung on the front door. From inside, I could hear laughter, music, the clinking of glasses. I spotted silhouettes, kids bouncing between adults, a couple slow dancing near the fireplace. Vanessa answered the door. She was beautiful, in that polished, effortless way. Auburn hair pulled into a soft bun, gold earrings, a cozy red sweater dress. Her smile was wide, warm, trusting. You must be Nadine, she beamed, taking the wine from my hand. Greg's in the den with the boys. Come in. Make yourself at home. I stepped inside, and for a moment I froze. The warmth, the smell of cinnamon, the music, it all felt so normal. Like I had been invited. Like I was welcome. But I wasn't. And that's what made this moment so powerful. I walked slowly through the hallway, past the entry table filled with family photos. Them at Yosemite. At the beach. School portraits of a boy and a girl, Noah and Lily. There was even a framed photo of Greg proposing to Vanessa on some rooftop, her hand covering her mouth, crying. Everywhere I looked, there were pieces of the man who used to read me bedtime stories, who used to cheer from the sidelines at my soccer games, who taught me how to parallel park in an empty grocery lot. Except in these photos, I didn't exist. It was like he'd erased me, rewritten his life. And now it was time to remind him who I was. I followed the sound of low conversation to the den. There he was, my father, sitting on a leather armchair, drink in hand, laughing at something a teenage boy had just said. He looked older, but happy, relaxed, like the weight of his choices had never once touched him. Until now. Our eyes locked. The moment he saw me, his face changed. He paled. The glass in his hand tipped slightly, nearly spilling. He looked at me like he'd just seen a ghost. Natalie, he whispered, barely audible. The boy next to him, Noah, maybe, tilted his head. Who's Natalie? I smiled. Stepped fully into the room. Hi, Dad. The room went silent. A few guests nearby turned, sensing something was off. Greg stood slowly, his mouth opening, then closing, like he couldn't decide which lie to start with. Natalie, what are you? This isn't. Vanessa stepped into the doorway, wine in hand, still smiling. Greg, who is she? I took a breath. I had one shot to say it exactly right. I'm his daughter, I said, loud enough for the room to hear. From his first family. You could feel the air collapse, like someone had vacuumed the joy out of the room. Vanessa blinked, stunned. What did you say? I walked further in, reached into my purse, pulled out the photo, the beach one, and handed it to her. This is from when I was 6. Your husband, my dad, took me and my mom to Santa Cruz for my birthday. He bought me a kite that got stuck in a tree. I cried for an hour. He spent another 2 getting it down. She stared at the photo. Her hand trembled. Noah stood up. Wait, is this some kind of joke? I looked at him. Really looked at him. His eyes were just like mine. No, I said. This isn't a joke. It's just a truth your dad's been hiding for nearly 15 years. Greg tried to step forward, voice tight. Natalie, let's talk privately. No, I said, cutting him off. You've lived your lie publicly for long enough. I'm not hiding anymore. And with that, I turned and walked out, slowly, deliberately. I didn't slam the door. I didn't scream. I just left them in the ruins of the illusion he'd built. Because sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't loud. It's showing up. It's being undeniable. Silence followed me out the door, thick and disorienting like fog after an explosion. I didn't rush to my car. I let the cold sting my cheeks as I walked down the icy sidewalk, heart pounding, limbs buzzing with adrenaline. I had done it. I had looked my father in the eye, in front of his new family, his friends, his holiday-perfect life, and told the truth he'd buried for over a decade. But I wasn't ready for what came next. By the time I got back to my apartment, there were 5 missed calls from an unknown number. Then 1 from my mom. I stared at my screen, pulse racing. He must have called her. Then the phone rang again, this time. His name lit up. Greg Green. I let it go to voicemail. But curiosity got the better of me, and I played it on speaker, standing in the dark. Natalie, it's me. I don't know what that was tonight. You shouldn't have come. That wasn't fair to Vanessa or the kids. You ambushed us. I need you to call me back, so we can talk. Please. No apology. No explanation. Just you shouldn't have come. That night, I cried for the first time since I found the photos. Not because of what I'd lost, but because I realized he'd never thought about what I had to carry all these years. He wasn't shocked that I found out, he was just shocked I had the nerve to show up. My mom called next. He called me, she said, voice low. Said you embarrassed him. That Vanessa's threatening to leave. I scoffed. Good. Natalie, she paused. Are you okay? No, I said. But I will be. The next few days were quiet but tense. Then something unexpected happened. Vanessa messaged me. She found my Instagram, probably from the photo I'd handed her, and sent a short, chillingly calm DM. Can we talk? I hesitated. Part of me wanted to block her. The other part was burning with curiosity. We met at a coffee shop 2 days later. She looked like she hadn't slept. Her wedding ring was still on, but she kept twisting it. I don't even know where to begin, she said as we sat down. I feel like I've been living in a movie. A nightmare. I nodded but didn't say anything. He told me he was married before. Said you lived out of state. That he hadn't seen you in years, and that your mother was unstable. I blinked. Unstable? Vanessa, I said quietly. My mom raised me alone while he played family man with you. She worked 2 jobs. Paid every bill. She's never once spoken badly about him, even when she should have. She covered her mouth, eyes welling. God. I feel so stupid. You shouldn't, I said. He's really good at lies. She nodded slowly. The thing is, it's not the affair. I mean, it is, but it's more than that. It's that he could have a daughter and pretend she didn't exist. I swallowed hard. Yeah, tell me about it. We sat in silence for a while, 2 women on opposite sides of a lie, both bleeding from the same wound. And then she said something I didn't expect. My son, Noah. He wants to talk to you. I stared at her. What? He's shaken. He doesn't trust Greg anymore. He asked if you were really his sister. I didn't know what to say, but I figured maybe he should hear it from you. It was the first time anyone from that side of my father's life had called me what I was, family. I agreed to meet him later that week. Noah was 16. Tall, lanky, smarter than I expected. We met in the same coffee shop. He sat across from me, fidgeting with his hoodie strings. So, you're really my sister? Half-sister, I said. But yeah. He looked down. I feel like everything's fake now. I nodded. Me too. He paused. Do you hate me? The question caught me off guard. No, I said. You didn't ask for any of this. Neither did I. He looked relieved. Then he reached into his backpack and pulled out a framed photo. It was one of the ones I had seen at their house, Greg and the two kids at the beach. I took it off the wall. I couldn't look at it anymore. I didn't know what to say, so I said the only thing I could. Thank you. When I got home that night, I opened an old memory box from under my bed. Inside were years of letters I had written but never sent. Cards my dad had given me growing up. A photo of him holding me when I was born. I stared at it for a long time. This wasn't just about crashing his holiday party. This was about reclaiming my story. I wasn't just the daughter he left behind. I was the girl who showed up. The one who refused to stay hidden. The aftermath of my father's secret exploding into the open wasn't a neat, tidy fairy tale. There were no sudden apologies, no Hollywood reconciliations. There was just real life. My name is Natalie Green, and after crashing my father's holiday party and meeting the people he'd kept hidden, I learned the hardest part wasn't uncovering his lies. It was deciding what I wanted to do with the pieces he left behind. In the days that followed, my phone buzzed nonstop. Texts from my mom, messages from Noah, even a few from Vanessa. Greg tried calling again, but I ignored him. For once, I wasn't the one chasing after him. He was chasing me. Noah and I grew closer fast. We exchanged stories, memories, fears. He wasn't some stranger from a secret family. He was my brother, imperfect, confused, trying to figure out how to hold two truths at once. A father who lied, and a sister who showed up. Vanessa surprised me, too. She didn't become the enemy I imagined. Instead, she became someone I could talk to, someone who understood that sometimes love is complicated, messy, and full of heartbreak. One night, we all ended up at my apartment. Greg was there too, his face drawn and tired. For the first time in years, we all sat around the same table. There were tears. There were angry words. There was silence. And then a small breakthrough. Greg looked at me, his eyes honest, raw. I was a coward, he admitted. I was selfish. I thought I could have both worlds without hurting anyone. I was wrong. You deserve better. I nodded. But I didn't say forgive me or let's fix this. Because some wounds take longer to heal. Instead, I said, I don't know what comes next, but I know I'm done being invisible. That night, I realized something important. Family isn't just about blood or shared history. It's about truth, about showing up, about choosing to be present, even when it's hard. And for the first time in years, I felt free. Free from secrets. Free from pretending. Free to build a life where I am seen, I am heard, and I am enough. Because the hardest part of my story wasn't discovering my father's double life. It was deciding to live my own. And I will. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Your support means everything. If this story touched you or made you think, please subscribe to our channel for more real, powerful stories.